This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, around the world on the Starcom Radio Network, Digital Broadcast Network, Digital Satellite Network, and the X-Zone Broadcast Network. Worldwide toll-free, 1-800-610-7035. My email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV. And you can listen to our live feed Monday through Friday from 8 p.m. Eastern until midnight. And you can also listen to when we're off the live show, you can listen to the best of at www.xzoneradiotv.com. My guest this hour, X-Zone Nation, is LAUREL Clark. She is a teacher and regional director with the School of Metaphysics, headquartered in Missouri, USA. She is also the vice president of the International Association for the Study of Dreams. An author, LAUREL's book, Intuitive Dreaming, describes how dreams can inspire creativity and innovation, as well as providing insight into everyday situations. Now, we can visit with the deceased loved ones in dreams, predict the future, have mind-to-mind and mutual dreams, and discover inner wisdom. LAUREL frequently speaks about dreams on radio, television, and to audiences in educational and business venues. Her websites, www.som.org and www.dreamschool.org. That's dreamschool.org. And LAUREL, welcome to the X-Zone.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
LAUREL, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you decided that you were going to take the journey that you're taking into the exploration and investigation into dreams.
Well, I think that I've always been interested in dreams. In fact, after I had studied with the School of Metaphysics for a number of years, I was just out of college in my early 20s when I discovered the School of Metaphysics. I was going back through some old papers and found that I had written a paper in junior high school on dreams. So, and I didn't even remember having written that, but obviously I was interested enough to do that. I think that since everybody dreams, it's very curious to me that many people think that they don't dream, but I think oftentimes either because of a frightening dream that we don't want to remember or some well-meaning parent who was trying to comfort us from a nightmare and said, oh, don't worry about it, dear, it was just a dream, we learn to forget dreams. But with myself, I found that there always were certain dreams that were strong enough and maybe strange enough that I remembered them. And when I was in college, I was taking a creative writing course, and one of my friends in the class wrote beautiful poetry with beautiful imagery, and I was kind of envious. I wrote poetry, but it was not very good in my estimation. And I asked her where she came up with this great imagery, and she said, I get it from my dreams. So she was actually the one who taught me when I was still in college how to keep a dream journal. And so I followed her advice, got a notebook, put it by my bed, told myself before I went to sleep that I wanted to remember my dreams. And in a little while, from just telling myself I wanted to remember dreams, I was remembering them and recording them, but I didn't know what to do with them until a couple of years later when, as a student at the School of Metaphysics, I began to learn to interpret them. And I've been working with dreams ever since. So it's been 35 years now that I've worked with dreams.
So how important to our lives do you think dreams are?
I think they are essential. In my understanding, in my studies, what I have learned is that dreams come from the inner self. Some people would call it the soul.
Mm-hmm.
It's where we go when we sleep at night. It also, interestingly, is the same place, as I understand it, where we go after death, which is why it's possible to have dreams with people who have died. And our everyday dreams can give us guidance and insight into our own attitudes, into ways of thinking that may be productive or not productive. Sometimes they can, I wouldn't say they make decisions for us, but they can inform us in ways that can help us to make decisions. They also are hugely important in becoming more aware of intuition. And that's been my more recent fascination with dreams, is all of the ways that they open us up to intuitive connections with other people.
Why is it some people can remember dreams and other people can't?
Well, that's a great question. I think a lot of it has to do with what we're taught. I have a student, for example, who was raised in a Muslim family, and her mother really believes in the power of dreams. So from the time she was a very young child, they talked about dreams at the breakfast table. They didn't always interpret them, but they talked about them. And so she grew up thinking that dreams were important, and she remembers many, many dreams. I know other people who have been taught that dreams aren't important. As I was saying, many of us in childhood had a dream that was scary, and we had a well-meaning parent who comforted us by saying, don't worry about it. It was just a dream. It didn't mean anything. So, if we think it doesn't mean something, why would we remember it? And I think another reason why many adults don't remember dreams is that they're so busy. They wake up to an alarm, and a loud, jarring alarm will kind of knock a dream out of your memory right away. They jump out of bed. They start thinking about their day.
Mm-hmm.
So to remember dreams, you need to spend a little bit of time lying there in bed, allowing the memory of the dream to rest. And that's why writing them down is so important, because it helps you to capture the details that if you just jump out of bed are going to fly away pretty much as soon as your feet hit the floor.
So why do some dreams seem so much more profound than other dreams?
Well, what I've found is that the dreams that are what I would call inner level experiences, like a visitation dream where someone who has died can actually come and visit us, or we can visit them, or a dream that is telepathic, where we're aware in the dream state of what someone else is thinking. Those dreams seem very profound because there's an awareness that there's an actual communication that's going on, that it's not just symbolic. Sometimes there are dreams that some people in the dream community call big dreams that are profound because they have a message about our future, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there's a sense of destiny that we get from those dreams. And I think the more that people keep track of their dreams in a dream journal, they become aware of the difference between an everyday symbolic dream and something that's what I would call an inner level communication.
Why are some dreams in color and other dreams in black and white? That's always boggled me.
Yeah, that's very interesting. When we sleep at night, we go into different levels in our dreaming.
Right.
And the dreams that are in the most shallow state of sleep, the ones closest to waking consciousness, those are the dreams that are in black and white. Then when we go into a deeper state of sleep, the next inner level dreams are in bright colors, and when we go into an even deeper state, they become more of a pastel color. So many people remember the dreams that are from the more shallow state of sleep, which are the black and white ones. And however, one thing that's interesting to me, I am old enough that I grew up in the days of black and white TV.
Me too.
And I didn't even realize that shows were in black and white until they started colorizing them. And I remember when I was in college, I saw The Wizard of Oz on a movie screen. Were showing it in the campus theater, and I had watched The Wizard of Oz every year. I don't know how many times, 10 times maybe, when I was a kid. And I never knew that Kansas was in black and white, and in Oz it was in color until I saw it on the movie screen. But what I realized is that when I was watching it in black and white, I just imagined the color in Kansas. Like, I imagined that the fields were golden color, and I imagined Dorothy having color in her clothes. So I wonder sometimes when people remember dreams, if they actually know if the dreams are in black and white or color. Like, perhaps they're having black and white dreams, but they're just imagining the color in it.
Could be. Good point. Why is it that nightmares, for example, can seem so real, so vivid? You wake up sometimes with that fear in you that in some dreams you're running away, you're trying to run, but the idea to run and the actual running are so far apart. Why does this happen?
Well, that's a really good question. Dreams are real. They're not physical, but they are real. And that's why it's very confusing, particularly to a child, when they have an experience like that. They wake up scared, and someone says, don't worry about it, it wasn't real. I mean, it's real enough that you can wake up sweating with your heart pounding. The reason that we have nightmares is that there's something in the waking state that we really need to pay attention to. And our dreams come from the inner mind, subconscious mind, which is kind of like a friend. It really wants to help. It wants to give you guidance. And if you don't pay attention, then it will sometimes repeat the message. That's why people will have recurring dreams. But if you keep not paying attention, then eventually your subconscious mind kind of yells at you, just like a parent. If they're trying to get a kid's attention and the child is running out in the street, they might yell, not because they're mad, but because they're trying to get the child's attention to get out of the street. That's kind of what a nightmare is like. It's our subconscious mind yelling at us to say, hey, pay attention, this is important. And the dream that you're talking about, where you're running and you can't move, you're in kind of slow motion.
Yes.
That happens when you are moving from one level of sleep to another. And it's kind of like if you're driving a stick shift car and you need to go faster and you press your foot on the gas, but you haven't shifted gears, you're not going to really go any faster. That's what's happening in the dream state, is that you're trying to move your attention. In the case of a nightmare, usually the dreamer is trying to move their attention to wake up, but they haven't, there are actually different bodies that we dream in. Their attention has not caught up with where their dream body is. So the best thing that somebody can do if they have a dream like that, or if they wake up and they feel like they're paralyzed, is to decide which way they want to go. Do I want to completely wake up, or do I want to completely go back into the dream? If they have enough awareness that they're dreaming to do that, and that will help to kind of relax and they become more calm.
What about this dream where we're falling, and just as we're going to hit, we wake up in that frightful mode? What does that signify?
That's an interesting experience. The experience of falling in the dream is the actual experience of waking up. So we sleep at different levels. And as we're going from a deeper state of sleep to a more shallow state of sleep and then to the waking state, that's the experience of falling. There's an old wives' tale that if you hit ground and you don't wake up, that you're going to die. And I always wondered, how did anybody know that? You know, you would have to be dead to report that. And I actually have talked to people who have had dreams where they have hit the ground and they didn't wake up, but sometimes they woke up into another dream. Like they became lucid, were aware that they were dreaming, and then went into another dream. So it's the actual experience of waking up is that falling sensation.
What is the physiology of a dream like? What does our body go through as we're dreaming or entering the dream state?
You know, that is a great question, and that is not my area of expertise. There are a lot of people who have studied that, and the dream organization that I'm associated with, the International Association for the Study of Dreams, there are many people in that organization who are brain scientists, and that's what they measure is what happens in the brain, what type of chemicals are produced. There's a man named David McConnell who's the researcher at Harvard, and he did a very interesting study that showed that the same action that occurs in the brain when we dream, he's in his off time likes to dance, to do jazz dance, and the difference between music that you play from reading sheet music and when people are improvising, like jazz improvisation, that's the same difference between what happens in the brain during waking consciousness and sleep consciousness. So the dreaming experience is similar to the jazz improvisation in terms of what happens in the dream, which I thought was very fascinating. So to learn more about the physiology, I would recommend going to the website of the International Association for the Study of Dreams, and there are lots of resources on there to look up more of the scientific brain research into dreaming.
In your opinion, do dreams support any of the claims of some people who believe in reincarnation?
I think they do. I personally have not had a dream of past lives, but I know a number of people who have, and part of the indication that somebody is dreaming, that it's not just like remembering a movie, but they're actually dreaming of a past life, is that everything in the dream is consistent. So you wouldn't have somebody who's, let's say, a coworker today in a past life setting. If it was an actual past life, everything in that setting would be coherent. And I'm not really sure why some people have those dreams and other people don't. That's always interesting to me, is the difference in the type of intuitive experiences that people have. You know, why are some people stronger in telepathy and some people are stronger in astral projection? There's a similar kind of thing with dreams. There are some people who are very active lucid dreamers. There are other people who seem to have more precognitive dreams. Some people who have more dreams of past lives.
How many dreams on average do we have a night, and how long are the dreams?
I think that really varies. It used to be believed that the only time that somebody dreamed was during the REM sleep cycle, the rapid eye movement cycle. However, more recent research, scientists say that that's not true, that we can dream throughout the night, and that we do sleep in 90-minute cycles. So it tends to be easier for people to remember dreams if they wake up in 90-minute increments. You know, after sleeping for an hour and a half, or 4.5 hours, or 6 hours. Sleeping 7 hours would be harder to remember a dream than 7.5, for example. So in terms of the number of dreams, I don't know if there's an average. And I do know that dreams, the time in dreams is very different from the waking time, because sometimes people can go to sleep and have a short nap, 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And they wake up with a dream, and it seems like that dream was going on for hours, but
Right.
they were only asleep for 20 minutes.
Now, you mentioned astral projection and out-of-body experiences. Do you get into that?
Yes, and in fact, one of the ways that people can become aware of astral projection is when they're having a flying dream. The experience of flying in a dream is actually being out of the body, and oftentimes when somebody has a flying dream, that can be a beginning step to then having waking experiences of being out of the body, because it gives them, if they remember the flying dream, it gives them an experience of being less attached to the kind of denseness of the physical form.
Gotcha. Very interesting. The books that are available in all bookstores and online on dream interpretation, how good are they?
They are very different, and I think it's important for people to try out for themselves different books. There's a book that I really recommend if people want a beginning book to learn how to interpret dreams. It was written by one of my teachers, Dr. Barbara Condren. It's called The Dreamer's Dictionary.
Mm-hmm.
And some people think that dream dictionaries are not a good way to go. However, this book, The Dreamer's Dictionary, talks about the philosophy of what I've learned through the School of Metaphysics as the universal language of mind, which is that in our waking life, everything has a particular function. Like a car is a vehicle that we use to get from place A to place B.
Right.
And whether you're in this country with a car with a motor, or if it was in a past life where we had a rickshaw, or some other culture that used a horse and carriage, that vehicle that gets us from here to there, the corresponding vehicle for us as a soul is our physical body. So if you accept, as I do, that we aren't a physical body, we have a body, but that we are a spirit or a soul, this physical body is what we use to get around in from place A to place B. So in a dream, how I understand a car is that it represents our physical body, and if you have dreams of car problems, it's telling you about potential health problems. So if you had a dream that you were trying to drive up a hill and you ran out of gas, how I would interpret the symbols in that dream is that there's a challenge or obstacle, which is the hill, that you are trying to somehow address this challenge in your life, and you're getting exhausted. That's the running out of gas. So then the individual dreamer, you and I could have that same dream. Individually, we would need to say, okay, well, what's the challenge in my life? And what am I doing that's getting me exhausted? Maybe for me, the challenge is I have too many irons in the fire and I'm getting scattered, and so then I get tired. Maybe for somebody else, the challenge is that they have a new position of responsibility and they're really worried about it, and their worrying is causing them to get exhausted. So that would be the personal application of universal symbols. And so that book, The Dreamer's Dictionary, describes what the universal symbols are, questions a dreamer can ask themselves so they can begin to learn how to interpret their own dreams. Another book that's a classic in the dream world is by a man who was recently deceased named Robert Van de Castle. He was one of the very first people, if not the first person, to bring the awareness of dreams into the academic community. He was at the University of Virginia for years. He was a research subject in intuitive dreaming, and he wrote a book called The Dreaming Mind that's kind of a classic in the dream world. And there are so many books that I think it's a good idea for somebody to, pick one up and flip through it. The book that I wrote recently called Intuitive Dreaming is not so much about interpreting dreams. It's about ways that people use dreams for inspiration, like creative inspiration, inventions, business ideas. the intuitive nature of dream telepathy, which is mind-to-mind communication, healing dreams, that type of dream experience.
Super. Laurel, you and I have to take our commercial break with the news at the bottom of the hour. Please stand by. Exonation Laurel Clark is our special guest. The websites are www.som.org and www.dreamschool.org. And we'll be back on the other side of this news break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide toll-free 800-610-7035. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, X Zone Radio TV. And our main radio site where you can listen to the X Zone 24/7, 365, www.xzoneradiotv.com. And we come to you Monday through Friday from 8 p.m. until midnight Eastern on the Starcom Radio Network, X Zone Broadcast Network, Digital Broadcast Network, and Digital Satellite Network. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, Laurel Clark, and I will be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away. What if Jesus came back now and insisted that we listen to him? How would the world be different if Christians really followed the Gospels? For 2,000 years, we've been practicing a religion. Now it's finally time to get it right. Read Liberating Jesus, new from Roberta Grimes. Meet the Jesus you never knew. Roberta uses afterlife evidence and biblical analysis to prove that Jesus is exactly right. Learning the lessons that he came to teach is the reason we are born at all. Roberta says he has come back now to insist that we actually listen to him so we can begin to use his teachings to unite and transform the world. Liberating Jesus on Amazon, October 1st, and then wherever books are sold. Jesus has the answers, and it's not too late. Roberta blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com.
The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State-certified occupational school training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com.
Call him Reef. Reef is your host. Reef is your guide. Are you happy? Happiness is like trying to find water in the desert. Can you find any? Sometimes, sure, but only a few drops. God is an ocean of joy, but God is not cheap. You cannot find God in a chemical. You must attract God's attention. How? Not by living to please your senses. That is false ego. The Matrix is not real. It is a computer-enhanced hallucination. You are spirit soul, not the body. We have forgotten how splendid our home really is, the spiritual sky. For more information, visit rishasongofblue.com. That's www.reshasongofblue.com.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money in abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right. Transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
Welcome back, everyone. Laurel Clark is our special guest. www.som.org and www.dreamschool.org. Earlier tonight, Laurel, you and I were talking about the nightmares and children when they have nightmares. Let me ask you this. A nightmare is based on a horrific dream that we have, right?
Yes.
Okay, so a child, what kind of dream could they have that would actually wake them up in such a fright and create such a horrifying dream known as a nightmare?
Well, the way that I understand dreams, they happen because of what is occurring in our waking life. And if you think about, people think about childhood as being so wonderful and innocent, and oftentimes it is, but there are also things that are confusing. So, for example, the evening of September 11th, 2001, there is now a young man who actually is the son of Dr. Barbara Condren, who wrote that book I was talking about earlier. He was 5, I think, when that occurred. And he sort of woke up in the middle of the night, but not really awake. He had what people call a night terror. But his eyes were open, but he was not awake and was terrified. And what his mother believes, and I agree with her, is that he was impressed by and kind of absorbing all of the fear and anger. I mean, there was so much fear from people all over the world. And part of the challenge that kids have is they're like sponges. They haven't, especially if they're below the age of 7, they haven't really developed their conscious minds. They haven't developed the ability to reason yet. And so they tend to kind of absorb the emotions of people around them. So if a child is in an environment, whether it's their own parents or something at school or the larger community, like what was happening in the world on September 11th, if they don't understand what's going on, then they can become scared, they can become angry, so that emotion enters into the dream. Sometimes what happens is that they'll see images that they don't understand, and it could be something from TV. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of filters on TV or even in magazines, so it's possible to see things that would not be in your waking life. I mean, you can see pictures of people being tortured, you can see pictures of people screaming, you can feel emotion that's not in your immediate environment, and without any way to understand what's going on, that can be very frightening. And I think that's what happens with kids. I know that there are some kids that have nightmares about, images from cartoons or from movies that they've seen. So I think it's important for parents to not to try to keep their kids in a bubble, because you can't do that, but to use some discrimination about what children are exposed to. And if an adult is watching a scary movie or has the TV on, if there's some kind of violence that's going on, is maybe turn it off if the child is in the room, or at least try to explain what's going on rather than thinking that it's not going to have any influence on the child.
Where do daydreams fit into the entire dream scenario?
That's a really good question. Daydreams are a function of the conscious mind wandering sometimes. Sometimes it's a matter of purposely visualizing, and the ability to daydream, to image what we want when we're awake, is a good partner to the sleeping dreams. The difference being that the nighttime dreams come to us. They're not something that we cause to happen consciously. The daydreams, if the mind is just wandering, then that may not be something that we're causing. It could be something that is actually kind of similar to a nighttime dream if we just let things float in and out of our mind. But if we're consciously daydreaming, consciously fantasizing about a person or about a situation, then that is a way of telling our subconscious mind what we want. So some of the information that's out there about visualizing, manifesting your desires, that is a very real possibility when we consciously image or dream about what we want. It's like planting a seed in our subconscious mind. And sometimes we can have dreams that will inform us. In fact, some of the dreams that I wrote about in the book Intuitive Dreaming came about that way, like the periodic table of elements, when Mendeleev, the scientist who's credited to be the creator or discoverer of that, he was trying to figure out how the elements went together. He was doing a lot of research, study, visualizing, and then, as the story goes, his family was playing classical music before he went to sleep, a very rhythmic type of music that probably helped to harmonize his brain waves. And then when he went to sleep, he saw the entire periodic table of elements with all of the elements in their places. And there was only one element that was out of place that when he woke up, he had to tweak with his conscious mind. So that was a way of his subconscious mind giving to him an answer that he had been working on consciously.
What would happen to a person if they stopped dreaming?
I think they probably would go crazy. In fact, there have been ways that sleep deprivation has been used as a form of torture, and people start to hallucinate when they are kept from dreaming for too long a period of time, because that inner mind has to express itself. So what people call a hallucination oftentimes is a dream that is impinging on the waking consciousness.
So how can people enrich their dream experience?
Well, there's a lot of ways to do that. I think the first step is to keep a dream journal. And there are so many benefits to doing that, one of which is at one at a time, a dreamer may not be aware of how important a dream is. It's kind of like a slice of their life that's taken out of context. And when somebody keeps a dream journal over time, it becomes a kind of record so that they can begin to see patterns. Like I had an experience that was really kind of fun. After, I don't even know how long, I began to become aware that there was a house that I had never lived in my waking state that was recurring in my dreams. It wasn't the same dream I had over and over again, but there was a particular house that would show up in my dreams. And when I began to become aware of that, then I wondered, what's happening in my waking life at the times that this house is showing up in my dreams?
Right.
So I started paying attention to that. And then after a while, I had dreams where in the dream, I became aware that the house was familiar. And so then I paid even more attention in my waking life to what was going on. And then I started having dreams that in the dream, I was aware that this house was familiar. And then in the dream, I would become aware that it was familiar because I had dreamed about it before. And then I became lucid. I became aware in the dream that I was dreaming. And that whole process happened only because over a period of time, I was writing my dreams down and I started noticing this house that kept recurring.
Right.
So that's an example of enriching dream experience from paying attention to it over time. Another way to enrich the dream experience is to really decide that you want to pay attention to your dreams, to maybe plan to wake up about half an hour before you actually have to get out of bed so that you can spend a little bit of time lying in bed, writing the dream down. It's very helpful when you wake up to not even move your body, to keep your body in the same position it was in when you were sleeping and write the dream down that way. And many dreamers find that that will help to enrich their dream life, is just to spend a little bit of time with the dreams and then to decide what to do with it. If you have a message from the dream, to interpret it and then say, okay, how am I going to apply this message in my life? And then it becomes kind of like a two-way conversation between you and your own subconscious mind.
Is dreaming also a way of our mind to purge the non-essential data that we have collected over the day?
You know, I've heard some people say that, and I don't really think so. I think that all of the dreams that we have some kind of importance. I do think that if there's something that's been troubling us that we have kind of pushed aside or ignored or didn't have time to think about, that having that dream come forward can be a way to become aware of and resolve things. So in that way, it could be a kind of purging, but I don't think it's meaningless in the sense of just trying to get rid of something that doesn't have any meaning to it.
Do our sociological rankings and or our religious associations or our sexual, for example, do men and women, do their dreams differ, or are all dreams basically the same based on a very simple criteria?
Well, in some ways, dreams are the same in that they usually feature people or places or things. In terms of the different kinds of dreams, I do think that there's a big influence based on someone's culture, their upbringing. For example, people who have a strong religious belief, like the person I was talking about who was raised in the Muslim family, that her mother believed that dreams were important. There's a lot of value in their culture. Dreams were a part of her everyday life. They talked about it at the breakfast table. Most people who have a Native American heritage have a strong interest in dreams, and oftentimes they look at animals in dreams as being spirit guides or totems. I think that sometimes it doesn't have to be a cultural thing. It could just be a family thing that people have different beliefs in dreams, that can influence not only someone's ability to remember dreams, but how valuable they think they are.
So if somebody listening tonight would like to communicate with someone who has passed, how would they prepare themselves to have that type of dream?
That is a really good question. And I actually have personal experience with this when my husband died. What I recommend is to, first of all, and this is true for remembering any kind of dream, to spend at least an hour, and preferably 2 hours without any electronic device, like to not be on your cell phone, not be on the computer, not watch TV, because that can interfere with the dream experience. So,
but if that's the case, Laurel, what about all the EMF that we're subjected to? What about all the microwaves and cell towers? Wouldn't they interrupt, or wouldn't they give the same interruption that using your iPad or your iPhone would?
They do.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, many people find that if they go on a camping trip, that they're in nature and away from that stuff, that they have a much richer dream life. So, if somebody lives right underneath a tower like that, I think it would influence their dreams. But in most cases, yeah, go ahead.
Isn't it safe to say that if you can get a signal on your cell phone that the EMF or the microwave is there, and shouldn't this be part of the interruption for the dreams?
Well, it could be. What I would recommend is to not put your cell phone in your room. Like, I don't keep my cell phone in my room. I have it in a different room.
Right.
To not sleep next to like a clock radio, to move the computers and all that stuff out of the bedroom. So, it might still have some effect, but if it's not right by your head, then it's much better. And I know sometimes people have right next to their bed, they have a whole bunch of electronic devices. So it's really best if those can be in a different room. And then prior to sleep, to communicate with the person who has died, it can be very helpful to do some kind of ritual. Like if there was something special that you did with that person, to do that. I know somebody who was married to a man. They are both very religious, and they used to read the Bible together before they went to bed. So for her, I would recommend that she pick some of the Bible passages they read together when he was alive and to read those. Or if there's not a special ritual, to write a letter to that person, pour your heart out, say all the things that you wished you had said before they passed and didn't have a chance to, and then in a very sincere statement, say, I would like to meet with you in my dreams tonight. Please come to me in my dreams, or show me how I can come to you. Whatever sincere statement the dreamer has.
But when you're having a dream about someone that has passed and you miss and you want to communicate with, and you do all this preparation, how do you know if the dream is a real communication from the other side, or if the dream is a figment of your imagination?
Well, all I can say is from my experience and the people I've talked to who've had visitation dreams, there's really not a doubt. And sometimes what happens is, if it's fairly recent since the person has passed, they may not yet be able to communicate. In fact, I had a dream that was very profound. My husband died young. He was 42. He had juvenile diabetes, and we didn't have a chance to say goodbye to each other before he died. I wasn't home. And I really wanted him to come to me in my dreams. And I thought he would, because we both had done a lot of dream work. And after maybe 6 weeks, when he had not come into my dreams, I did what I'm describing. I wrote a very heartfelt letter to him in my dream journal. I kind of pleaded with him to please come to me in my dreams. I meditated. And then I had a dream that I was at this graduation ceremony, and there was a stage that was far off. I could see it, but it was kind of far away. I saw these people on the stage, and there he was wearing this baseball cap that he used to wear sometimes. And it was kind of sad and bittersweet, because I could see him, but I couldn't tell if he could see me. And then right near the end of the dream, somebody gave me my Bible, which had been sitting on the stage. Apparently I'd left it there. And when I opened it, this piece of paper fluttered out, and on it there was a heart that was drawn in his handwriting. And I knew in the dream that that was from him, his way of saying, I love you. And I also knew that the reason that he hadn't come to me sooner and why there was just this picture is that he was still graduating to the other side and had not yet developed the ability to communicate verbally. So that, I mean, I knew without any doubt that that was what the communication was. And in some ways it was kind of bad because I was hoping, we would see each other, we would hug, we'd have a conversation. But it also told me that I just needed to be patient and let him go through whatever he needed to go through. And then the following year, he died on September 10th, 2000. So a year later, I decided I wanted to celebrate the anniversary of his death, and I was going to do, kind of like a sacred ceremony, which I was not able to do on the exact day of the anniversary. I did it the next day, which was September 11th, 2001. And that night I had a dream, and part of what was profound to me, I was living in Missouri, but I grew up in New York, and my sister-in-law lives in New York. I have a lot of friends who live there, and I had no idea if these people were dead or alive because none of the phones would communicate. So anyway, that evening I had a dream, and John, my husband, who had been deceased for a year, was in New York, and he was helping the people who had died in the World Trade Center. He looked beautiful. He looked vibrant. He looked healthy, not at all sick like he was before he died. And I asked him with some alarm, are they okay? Meaning the people who died.
Sure.
And he lit up with this amazing light. I mean, just amazing light. And he beamed this big smile, and he said, yes, they're fine. Once they're out, they're fine. And when he said once they're out, I could feel this kind of whoosh of exhilaration of a spirit leaving the body. And I knew what he meant is that once someone is completely out of the body, they're fine. And I mean, again, that was a dream. There was no doubt in my mind that that was him, and that communication was not just for me, it was for everybody who was going through all of the fear and anger and, all of the emotion of that day. So,
Laurel, we've come to the end of the hour. I want to thank you ever so much for joining us. It's been a great hour, and thank you for sharing your very own dream with us there. It was very heartwarming, and I want to thank you again and wish you continued success, and happy dreams to you and yours.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show. I enjoyed it.
Thank you, dear. Exo Nation, Laurel Clark has been our guest. www.som.org and www.dreamschool.org. Dreams. The difference between a dream and reality is just making it happen. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news at the top of the hour as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.